Hey guys, this is Raymond, and this is part two of what. So you love Ernest, what if it doesn't love you back, right? And this is the instructor edition, right? So a lot of us really love Ernest, right? We love FMA, we do our art, and a lot of us um, get into the position where we want to become teachers, right? For a lot of us, it starts out very slowly, right? You start assisting in class, right? You get to that level where your teacher, your coach, your guru, your maestro, whatever, asks you to assist in class. So that's how a lot of us start, right? In some of the clubs that have black belt, or a belting system or a ranking system, typically class assistance is like a requirement to get to the black belt. You have to have X number of hours of assisting in a class, or at least co-teaching a class or something like that. So a lot of us start out that way, and for one reason or another, we decide to become instructors, right? So what I'm going to talk about will apply to part-time instructors or hobby instructors, as I call them, but it won't apply to them as hard. All right. What are hobby instructors or part-time? Part-time instructors are very clear, right? They teach Arnis, but it's not their main source of livelihood, right? The same thing with hobby teachers. Hobby teachers, you really know these guys because they typically have a small group of very tight knit students, and it's they would have the same students year in year out. They have really great student retention, but they typically stay small because income is not the main consideration, right? Or income is not even a major consideration for these guys. They teach for the joy of teaching, right? But as I've mentioned in one of my past videos, even when you're a hobbyist, even if you're a part timer, you should be getting paid what you're worth, right? So a lot of us, or some of us, go really deep into teaching martial arts and teaching Arnis, and we make a go at it as instructors. And from my experience, I left my corporate job because honestly, I hated it. Well, not hated it. That's too strong a word. I just saw no future in it, right? And it was an okay job as jobs go, but it wasn't what I was passionate about, right? And I'm the kind of person who wants to do what I'm passionate about, and I teaching Arnis in the weekends was just not cutting it, right? But I was very hesitant in the beginning because I didn't know if Arnis, or yeah, if Arnis would be a viable income stream or a viable career for me. It took the help of my coach, Ryan, Sir Ryan Gialago. He showed me like, oh, this is the business side. This is the kind of money that you make if you do X, Y, and Z. If you have X, Y, and Z students with this kind of setup, you earn this much. So it was a very clear thing. And when I saw that, like, oh, okay, this is another part of the system. Like, this is the business side, how you can be a full-time instructor. Okay, and I've had my ups and downs as a full-time instructor. It was easier to have downs when I was single, right? Like when I had really low income months or something like that. I can just not spend money. Just lay low, not spend money. For anyone who knew me from back then and know me from until now, part of the reason why I bicycled a lot at the time was just to save money on gas. Like I was noticing how much money I was spending on gas doing these short trips that I could just cycle for, right? But I did enjoy cycling anyway, right? Even before I had cash issues, I was cycling. But I was very happy that I'm good at cycling because it really helped with my cash issues. Anyway, yeah, being single, when you have lean months, it's not a big deal. You just, live with it. But when you have the good months where you're getting a lot of money, you save a little bit for those lean months, right? And then you have a normal life, right? And it was fine, right? But everything got. But one of the things that I noticed, and this is another thing, is that as time went by, money became less and less stable for me. Well, not less and less stable. It become less. It became less and less enough for my needs, especially now that I am newly married and I have a kid. Um, I cannot have the instability that I had in the past. That's what I'm thinking, right? So income, the income stream is kind of important to me if I'm going to make my livelihood in Arnis. And one of the things that happened to me is that I would teach in a middle school, right? That's probably one of the most stable ways to earn income in this business is teach in a high school, teach in a middle school, get a club going. If you have two or three clubs going and you're charging, like how much was I charging? I think I was charging like 2,000 or 5,000. I think I was charging 5,000 a sem for teaching 2 days a week or something like that. Well, anyway, if you have three clubs going with a good attendance rate, by good attendance rate, I'm thinking like 10 to 15 students regularly attending. Maybe you have like 20, 25 people in your roster. You're already doing pretty okay. At my height, I was teaching like 50 people per class, right? Per class, and I was doing okay. Um, but what happened to me was a lot of my students graduated in middle school. And for some, not middle school, a lot of my students graduated high school, right? So they all went off to college. And I'm really happy a lot of them stuck with Ernest and, they really kept at it. And it's really rather gratifying to see them succeed in the sport even after they've left you, right? Um, it's kind of a point of pride for me, right? That they're doing so well. But anyway, they graduated and no one signed up, right? Well, not no one. Very few kids signed up. Um, and that was a very disheartening moment for me. I've been there before. Don't get me wrong. I've had some really gut wrenching moments in earnest. Like, you would be so pumped about starting a program and no one shows up for the program, right? The first one of the years I taught Ernest, I was so pumped about it. The school was pumped about it, um, but we only had one kid sign up, right? I actually had my coordinator talk to me, and she was like, "Look, you only have one kid. Are you going to cancel it?" And I'm like, "No, this is my career. One kid is one kid. I had zero students yesterday. I have one student now. For me, I just more than doubled my students, right? So I kept at it. I taught that kid, and props to that kid. She stuck with me for two sems, I think, two or three sems, three modules. She stuck with me for three modules, and it was just her and myself training in the school gym. Everybody else was doing normal sports, but we were training together in that little corner. We were doing Arnis, and it was fun. But I was young at that time. I was, I think, 25 at that time, so I didn't mind it. Teaching that one kid was giving me spending money, um, and that's all I really needed for myself. I had no responsibilities, right? Fast forward to now, I only had three kids sign up. Then it became four kids sign up. And that was rather disheartening. And I knew that Arnis would not pay for my lifestyle at that moment. I knew that it could bounce back, right? Like, given enough time, like, I give it one more year, I would probably be able to get more students, more signups. If I do my promotions right, and promote the club, promote the activity, it's going to come back, right? But then the pandemic happened, right? And that really sucked, I have to say. the good thing for me is before the pandemic happened, I was already doing other things. I was already trying to have other sources of income. So when the pandemic happened, my online income was pretty good. Like it was able to save me. I like if I didn't have my side gig, I don't know what would have happened to me. And I haven't really talked to a lot of the people that I know for martial arts, but I know some people who are so dedicated to Arnis and to Filipino martial arts, and this is their main income. And this pandemic was just devastating, devastating for these guys. And you had this mad scramble back in 2020 where everyone tried to do the online thing. They were like, okay, let's do online. Um, Not everyone had the ability to translate their physical classes into a good online class. And even me, I'm struggling with that. That's why I'm not fully promoting my club yet, my online classes, because right now I'm really, really trying to develop. Like, if you guys notice, my camera or my camera angles, my lighting has changed in the past few months. The audio may have changed. I'm slowly, slowly improving. I'm improving my class. So once I get to the point where I can feel like I can really start promoting the class to the general public, I'll start doing that. But there were people who just tried it and they just couldn't make it work, right? And they yeah, like I said, it's not easy to make it work. Um, even if I had a background in education, like I've been educating people, I've I don't have um, a teacher's license, a PRC license, but I've attended all the workshops. Like no, not all, but I've attended a lot of workshops on childhood development, sports teaching, and that kind of thing. So I have a clear idea of where to go. And not everybody has that background, and I really feel for some of these guys, right? So this is what I'm talking about. When you love Ernest, but Ernest doesn't seem to love you back in a financial way, right? It's not paying the bills. It's not putting food on the table. Um, and it really makes you think. Like, is the problem with myself, or is the problem in the art itself, right? Is it? Am I not making money because I suck as a teacher, or I just had bad luck as a teacher, or something? Or am I not making enough money because it's not really a viable business? Um, you have to take a look at that and take a look at it seriously, honestly. Um, it's a really difficult thing to think about for guys like us who are full time. For part time people, even for you guys, you have to consider: is it worth my time to put in, teaching part time? Because there's a lot of opportunity cost. You might be doing something else, right? You might be, doing another side gig, helping out with the family, maybe even starting a real viable business that can set up your family for years, right? Instead of teaching martial arts, right? So there's opportunity cost, even for part timers. And if Arnis is not a viable financial thing for you, yeah, you have to have a long, hard look at that and see what can you do, right? I mean, some people say there are some people who are in a very lucky position, who maybe they're already earning a pension or something like that, and they're teaching, and they don't really care about the income. I'm really jealous of those guys that they don't care about the income. But I don't want to start teaching Arnis when I'm in 60 years old and can barely hold the posture, and then you know people will not really understand what I'm trying to teach them. Right? I want to be at this age where physically I can still do the movements. I may not be able to do it with the same amount of stamina as before, but at least I can do it with high intensity and and high fidelity to what the technique is supposed to be. So there. So at the bottom line of it, again, if it's financially not working out, you have to reflect on that a little bit. The other thing that is kind of hard is like what when I like in the story that I told you guys about me, where I had a lot of students, and they all moved on. I have to admit that was, and I didn't get replacement students. I had to admit that was really hard on me. It feels like, and I don't know, you guys might know this feeling. It feels like nobody really appreciates what you're doing, right? Um, you're training these kids, you're training these people, and you're putting your heart and soul into the whole thing. Um, and like a lot of us, I would probably teach even if I don't make money off of it. Like even now, I'm teaching online, and I'm not making any real money out of that, right? Um, but more than that is just the sense of, I wouldn't say loyalty, but the sense of gratitude, right? Sometimes you just don't feel it from the people around you. And part of it is that the world that we live in right now is very transactional, right? A lot of relationships are very transactional. So a lot of people, they feel, and not without any justification, they feel that they've paid you for a service and you've provided the service, and they're perfectly happy with that, and then the relationship is up to that level only, which is nice, right? I mean, not nice. I mean, it's life. It's what we have to work with, right? But what I'm saying is that a lot of us got into martial arts, like stayed with the martial arts for a long time, not because we had fantastic transactional relationships with our teachers. It's that we had really real relationships with our teachers, with our instructors, right? And that's what made us stay for a long time. I don't know about you guys, but that's for me, and I think for most of us, that's the experience, right? And I'm just not feeling it at the moment. Or there are moments where I don't feel it. There are moments where I really, really feel that my students, they really, really appreciate what I did for them, like the training that they received and what that opened up for them. Um, and Arnis has given me a lot of things, and I'm so happy that some of my students are getting the same things. They're getting the same opportunity to compete in a national level, to experience that kind of life. That high level athletic sort of life. So that's great. I love that. So when Arnis doesn't love you back, right? Meaning in this case is when your students really don't show the appreciation, it can be really, really tough. Um, and for that, I suggest, get in touch with other martial artists. But be careful with the kind of martial artists you surround yourself with. I have been to places where everyone was commiserating about how terrible being a teacher is, and there's this whole victim mentality that came out of it. And they feel like, oh, there's nobody cares about our art, and they actually feel good about that. Playing the victim for them feels justified. It it feels like it justifies what they're doing to a certain extent. I don't know if that makes sense. Like they feel a sense of martyrdom and a sense of nobility if they're kind of the victim. So I don't like, I don't. That's not what I mean when I say find people to hang out with. Find other martial arts instructors who are positive, who are making moves about improving their life, right? Find people who are moving forward, who are getting the success that you want, right? So like me, I keep in touch with my martial arts coaches because they're doing some really great things, like the online classes. Like Coach Ryan Gialogo has some really cool online classes. It's really sad that I haven't been able to attend them, because my online classes I scheduled a little bit before his online classes. Like the schedules are kind of overlapping, and there's already momentum in my class, so I don't want to change it. And then now, because of certain things in my life, I can't even go to the online classes as much as I want. Yeah, it's a terrible. But he's doing some great stuff. Like he's doing asynchronous learning. He has a lot of training videos. Like he has training clips, and he uses them really really well. It's something that I can't do. Um, I don't know. It just doesn't match my personality or my teaching style. But it's a technique that, at least I was open to that technique of teaching, that style of teaching from watching him, right? So be around people like that, who are a little bit more on the who have forward momentum. Be around other people who are not even in martial arts, people who are doing their own business, who are starting their own thing. Be around those people. So a lot of them are really, really positive, and they might give you ideas about how to organize things properly. Um, so there we go. So I don't know. This video has been a little bit rambly. I'm looking at the clock and I'm probably past the 20-minute mark. But basically, when a lot of us, at the end of the day, um, we will get those moments where it really feels like you want to quit. Like the art that you loved and sacrificed so much for is does not love you back. And it really hurts when that happens. And I get it. I understand it. Like you guys who are also instructors there, who are struggling, like I like, dude, I know a lot of you guys are struggling way way harder than I am. Like I'm really lucky I don't have to pay rent and other stuff like that. Like financially, I'm not as good as I used to be, but I know at least I'm not in trouble, right? Um, but I know some of you guys are really, really having a hard time with it. You're trying to think of what move to do next. You're even probably considering quitting Arnis, or teaching Arnis entirely, and just go back to having it be a hobby. I understand that. I understand the feeling. Know that other people are also going through that right now, and together maybe we can think up of ways to get things done, right? To get past this pandemic with all the um, with all the bullshittery that's been going on. We can probably get past it. Um, you know, if we work together or if we work hard enough. We have to support each other in this industry. We have to support each other in this art, right? Um, so there. I don't know. So I'm gonna stop rambling at this point. I hope the thoughts that I had and the thoughts you had were kind of jived at the moment. Like you understand what I'm saying. But if you don't, I'm like, if nothing makes sense to you, at least you stayed for 20 plus minutes of me talking, right? So yeah, talk to you guys soon, and hopefully things will be different next time.